Okay, everyone, hello. This is the third MDAO meeting. Just a reminder for everybody, don't forget to fill your availability out. Take the rules test. Put your schedule in, and I can't think of the words for the last thing. So it's the video from the state. So don't forget to do those 4 things if you want to win the playoffs. Does anybody have any questions on that? Or should we just get started? I'd like to go about 35 or 40 minutes and then see if there's any questions. Did everybody make the first meeting at Groves? If everybody made the first meeting at Groves, you have this in front of you. I'm going to try and make it bigger. Of course, it's not going to.
Turn the kitchen light on,
Anyways.
please. Thanks.
Here we go. The home team has Frank listed in the 6th spot in the batting lineup and listed as player DH or pitcher DH. In the second inning, Frank hits a single. His head coach would like to put in a courtesy runner for Frank since he is the pitcher. So, all right. So since he's a pitcher DH, you cannot courtesy run for them. So the ruling is this move is not permitted. If the coach were to put in a runner for Frank, it would be a pinch runner and a substitution. Frank would be removed, but he may re-enter once in the 6th spot, and the role of DH would be removed for the remainder of the game. So I know this is new and fun, so let's make sure we watch and we know the rule on this one. Number 2, does anybody have any questions on that? I don't know if anybody can hear me or I can hear you, but it's quiet. So number 2, the home team has Daniel listed in the 4th spot in the batting lineup and listed as a pitcher DH. In the 5th inning, Daniel is replaced on the mound by Smith. When the head coach informs the plate umpire of the change, the plate umpire should ask the head coach whether he wants Daniel to remain in the DH as the DH and hit for Smith, or for Smith to hit for himself. So he does have 2 choices. So here's the ruling. If he chooses to keep Daniel as a DH, Daniel may only hit for Smith and any subsequent player in the 4th spot, and Daniel has not substituted for re-entry purposes. If he chooses to have Smith hit for himself, the DH role is terminated for the remainder of the game, and Daniel has been substituted for. Daniel may re-enter the game once as long as he replaces the player in the 4th spot in the batting lineup. So and there's a note to it. The plate umpire is not required to ask the head coach what his preference is. And if the coach does not notify him that Daniel will remain in the game as a DH, the DH role will be terminated and Smith must hit for himself. I strongly recommend that you ask the coach what he wants to do. It'll say, don't poke, I'm big on not poking the bear, so don't poke the bear. So most of the coaches need help. And I know most of the umpires need help on this too, because I don't like it at all, but it is what it is.
I have a question.
Yes.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes, I can, Mike.
Yeah. So with this DH rule, how long has this DH rule been in place where say for instance, the pitcher can be considered the DH and the pitcher, and I assume because he's a good hitter and when he comes out of the game, he can stay in as a DH. Has this always been the rule?
This has been about 3 years now.
Okay.
That I can think of. This is like the 3rd year.
Yeah. And it's out of all the rules, this one's a little confusing to me because it seems like once you remove the DH and someone comes in to hit that's been in the field, the DH has been eliminated from the game. Is that true, or?
You're gonna have to give me a better scenario.
Yeah. I guess that's why it's a
So
little confusing.
let's go backwards and let me see if this will help. What they're trying to do is when the pitcher gets tired and needs to come out, trying to let him bat still. So then whoever they put in becomes the defensive guy.
Mhm.
And that pitcher now can go to the bench and be a DH.
No, I get that part. It's
Okay.
just, there's a bunch of different scenarios that as I'm reading through these things, but I think I get it for the most part. But maybe we'll go through some more. I don't know.
Okay, there's a nice little, there's some scenarios on the MHSA website.
Yeah, I saw those. Yep.
We can end
Okay.
up over it if you'd like to.
Okay.
go through.
Yep.
Okay, so to communicate defensive and pitch signals, the home team uses posters that have emblems, colors, and icons. The pitcher looks to the dugout, sees the team pointing to various parts of the posters, and gets the sign for the next pitch. The pitcher now legally gets on the pitching plate and without looking at the catcher begins its pitching motion. So the pitcher can't do that, right? So we need him to at least pause and act like he's taking a signal. So the ruling is it's an illegal pitch. A pitcher is required to take or simulate taking a signal from the catcher when legally on the pitcher's plate. So you just can't, that's kind of a quick pitch. So hopefully we can stop that early if this happens, but remember they have to at least pause a little bit so the batter's ready for the pitch.
I've got a question related to that
Sure.
rule. So if the pitcher takes a sign from the catcher and he's not in contact with the pitcher's plate, it's a balk. So these signals from the bench, presumably, would that same rule apply to taking signals from the bench?
No, I would be more lax on that. I would try and squash that early. It's, you know, if someone's trying to get away with something, I would stop that. But I mean, if they have posters and stuff up like they do on TV now,
Mm-hmm.
you're gonna have to let them do what they do on TV. Otherwise, it's just gonna be a fight all day. Remind the catcher if he's given a signal and the pitcher's not on the plate, hey, make sure he's on the plate before you get a signal. And that's their traditional way. But if it's a poster or whatever, and the guy, he's looking over in the dugout trying to figure out, you know, if it's Raphael or whatever the other turtles are, you know, it is, do the best you can. Remember, they're only kids. Don't let anybody get away with anything. Like I always say, don't let anybody get away with anything. Just try and roll with it the best you can. Does that help?
Yes.
Okay, number 4. Count is 1 and 2 with the runner on second base, attempting to steal third. As the batter looks at the outside pitch, the catcher attempts to throw to third base to put out the runner stealing. The catcher's throw hits the batter's bat and deflects into the dugout. Even though the batter has not moved, the defensive coach insists that batter interference be called. All right, so yeah, nobody's going to be happy on this, but it's not batter interference. Unless the batter gets in the way. If he's just standing there, you're okay, but if he gets in the way on purpose, and like I always say, that's why they pay us the big bucks, for us to know whether he's getting in the way on purpose. Award the runner from second home and score the run. The batter remains at bat with a 2-2 count. If the batter's not doing anything he should not normally be doing, you can't penalize him. If he's trying to get in the way, or you think he's trying to get in the way, you can penalize him.
Excuse me,
Hopefully you
Paul.
won't see that too many times.
Excuse me, Paul.
Yes,
Does a throw have to be made be considered interference?
definitely.
Okay, so if the catcher tries to throw, but the guy he feels is in his way, said he interfered with me, said, but he has to make a throw for it to be interference.
Well, if you don't think he interfered, don't penalize it. if you think he interfered, penalize it. How's that?
Okay. So a throw is not necessary to be considered interference.
Correct.
All right, admittedly, I was thinking about this in conjunction to when the runner not being in the running lane. And he doesn't throw, so it's not interference.
You got to throw it.
Right, so that one, he has to throw it, be
Yeah.
interference.
Right.
But for this scenario listed here in number 4, he does not have to throw it to be called interference.
Correct. It's the same thing yes, correct. If you think the batter got in the way intentionally, then yes, you can call the runner out
Okay,
or the batter out, depending on
Excuse me.
if there's
Yeah.
2 outs, right? There's
Right.
2 outs, the batter's out. If it's less than 2 outs, the runner's out. So yes, don't poke the bear. Make sure it's there. Use your best judgment. Hopefully this won't happen to you. I've only seen it once, but it's happened.
all right, thank you.
Number 5, the plate umpire notices that several infielders on the visiting team are wearing their signal sweatbands on their belt. The visiting team's head coach says the umpires at the last game ruled the equipment legal. Okay, sweatbands were not made to be worn on the belt. The equipment is not legal if worn on the belt. So the play cards for the pitcher cannot be on the arm. The state made that ruling. They have to be on the belt. So just for the pitcher, they have to be on the belt. So if you work football, they can't have it on the belt, but in baseball you can. So it's great. So hopefully it won't be that big of a deal this year. You never know. Make sure everybody wears everything the way it's supposed to be worn. It's not real exciting. So number 6, with R2 on second base and 1 out, a ground ball is hit to the third baseman. The third baseman bobbles the ball and throws low to first base. Batter runner slides into first as the thrown ball from third bounces off the first baseman's mitt and into the batter runner's jersey. When the third baseman threw the ball to first, R2 was attempting to advance to third base. When no one could find the baseball, R2 advances home. The defensive team head coach is adamant that the batter runner should be out and that R2 be returned to second base. The offensive team coach is equally adamant that the play should stand. So if, God forbid, you have the ball lodging in somebody's jersey. So we're going to have a block ball, lodge ball, however you want to do it. So it's going to be 1 base from the time of the pitch. So the ruling is when the ball became lodged in the offensive player's jersey, it is immediately dead. So we don't want anybody trying to rip apart somebody's clothes or actually somebody, period, to get to a ball. So batter runner is awarded first. Because R2 was attempting to advance at the time the ball became lodged, R2 is awarded third base. So I heard a play about 30 years ago. The catcher was the batter bunted, and the catcher was running after the runner, and he reached with the ball and he put it in the guy's pocket. Then they started chasing the kid around the bases. So, try and kill it so nobody hurts anybody. But God forbid, I did hear about this. This was in a college game too. So God forbid that happens to you. But just so you know what happens if something wacky like this happens. Questions on number 6? Okay, number 7. The pitch that is low and hard gets by the catcher and ends up in the backstop fence at a short distance behind home plate. R2 on second base sees the ball get by the catcher and attempts to advance to third. Batter runner attempts to advance to first base as the pitch was ball 4. as the catcher goes to retrieve the ball, it falls from the fence and the catcher picks it up and throws the third in time to retire our team. Okay, so again, we have a lodge ball, block ball, whatever term you want to use. And it's immediately dead. R2 is, so everybody gets one base from the time of the pitch. So R2 is awarded third, which is one base since it was a pitch, and the batter runner is awarded first due to the pitch being ball 4. Try not to kill a dead horse too much on this. Okay, number 8. With runners on second and third and 1 out, the batter swings at strike 3 and the pitch gets past the catcher. The batter turns and begins to walk to the third base dugout as R3 attempts to come home. With instructions from the dugout to run, the batter runner turns around and goes and runs the first and in doing so crosses the home plate area as the pitcher near home plate and attempt to put out R3. There is no contact as the batter runner runs between the pitcher and the catcher. However, the catcher throws the ball to the pitcher covering home. The pitcher is distracted and the ball goes to the pitcher's mound. The defensive team head coach demands that an interference be called. Here's another one I hope you never see. This is not interference. Batter runner has a right to attempt to advance to first base and has done nothing intentional. Again, remember, if he does something intentional, we have to penalize it. Don't let anybody get away with it. Even if the batter runner mistakenly thought about advancing, that act itself would not be considered interference. Score R3 and leave the batter runner at first base. So don't, again, sure, no one's trying to get away with anything. If they're just playing ball and they're doing what they have to do, or they're being where they have to be, you can't penalize that.
Yeah, I'm not so sure I follow that one too closely. If I use a similar situation, if there's a pop-up on the first base line and the batter runner is going down the line and the pitcher's coming over to catch the ball, the batter runner does not have the right to impede the pitcher's ability to catch that ball. He can interfere with him even though he has a right to try and get to first base.
I agree with that. That's going to be your first play on the infield, though. That's going to be like a first play scenario.
Yeah.
I agree. I would agree with it. This is like a second play scenario where things are happening. It's not that kind of, it's not what I'm going to call first play scenario interference. And I don't know if that's the right term.
Okay.
But this is like a second play. It happens. Sometimes it happens. Hopefully it doesn't happen to you too often, but yes, if it's a pop-up and the pitcher's going for it and it's in foul territory and the batter's running up the line and interferes with the pitcher's attempt to catch it, yes, we have to penalize that, which I've done in the past.
So this would kind of be equivalent of a base runner running the bases and a ground ball is hit, that two fielders have an opportunity to play, and you have to determine which one is the most likely fielder for the ball,
Yes.
and only
Yes.
judge that he is not hindering that fielder, as opposed to a second one that might also have a play on it.
Yes. So yeah, it's
Okay.
Only one guy gets protected.
Yeah.
The guy that you think can make the play.
So in this case, it would be the catcher, and you would not judge interference against the batter runner interfering with the pitcher. Okay.
Okay, and if they do make contact, that's a whole nother thing. So if there is contact between the batter and the pitcher, then I would penalize something. So here it says there's no contact. And
Okay.
the pitcher just got distracted. So
Question
Yeah.
on this one.
sure.
When does the batter, so it says he turns around and starts heading to the third base dugout. When does he give up the right to run to first base on a pass ball? Is does he need to be all the way into the dugout before it's considered an out? Or how far can he get towards the dugout before he gets to turn around and run back to first base?
In my opinion, yes, he has to get out. He has to be out of play.
Okay.
So
And so you say your opinion, I guess, is there anything in the rules about that, or?
I read conflicting things in the rule book about it.
Okay.
So if there's no play on the batter, if there's no play on a batter or a runner anytime, they can pretty much run any way they want, correct? So as soon as, okay, if the catcher doesn't have to chase him into the third base dugout to tag him out if he's going the wrong direction. So, because first base is the other direction. So as soon as he realizes, oh, it hit the dirt and he can go, he might be 2 or 3 or 4 steps. Okay, now he can go, yes. But if the catcher has the ball, he doesn't have to chase the guy into the dugout. He should be able to, okay, so now we have an out. He gave himself up. We have an out, right?
Okay.
That help?
Yep.
Okay. On to number 9. Hopefully we'll get better ones. The runner's on first and third with 2 outs. The batter hits a fly ball to right field. R3 immediately comes home, but R1, thinking there is only 1 out, remains on first to tag up. First base coach sees R1 still on first and gives R1 a slight push to get him moving. R3 crossed the plate just before the push, and the fly ball falls at the right fielder's feet for a base hit. Okay, so I've seen this 2 or 3 times. When a coach physically assists a runner during playing action, the assisted runner is called out immediately. The ball remains live and in play. This is a timing play, and the run will count since R3 touched home prior to the out being declared. The defense did not force R3 out, so the third out is not considered to be a force out. Okay. That was a filler question, sorry. With the bases empty and a 2-strike count, the batter swings as the pitch hits the dirt and bounces off the catcher. Batter runner comes out of the box running toward first base with the bat still in hand. The pitch that bounced off the catcher's shin guards hits the bat and rolls to the backstop as the batter runner makes first safely. Okay, so here's what the Federation says the ruling is. Since the batter runner has not advanced to the 45-foot running lane, the batter runner can only interfere if the batter runner intentionally interferes on a thrown ball or intentionally hinders the fielder. Strike 3, where the batter becomes a runner, is treated as a thrown ball situation. Even if the batter runner starting to advance to first base unintentionally kicks the ball or contacts the catcher trying to field the ball, either case is interference if unintentional. So if all that happens and you think there's no intent, sorry, it's just the play is going to have to happen. So, but if you get any whiff of intent, make sure you penalize it, because everybody will be doing it. Questions on that one? Another little wacky one. Number 11, no outs and R1 on first and R2 on second. F1, the pitcher executes a pickoff move and R2 ends up caught in a rundown between second and third. During the rundown, R2 is obstructed by the shortstop. The rundown continues, and as the defense attempts to tag R2, he of course smacks the glove away, causing the ball to roll past the third baseman and into the dugout. So in this case, we're going to have interference superseding the obstruction. So here's the technical terms for it. The ball remains live during all obstruction plays, and the award is made at the end of playing action. When the runner subsequently interferes, he is out. The ball is dead immediately, and the obstruction award is nullified. Depending on the severity of the contact, the runner could also be ejected. Try not to do that unless it's really bad. R1 must be returned to first, and R2 had given up legal possession of second base. So that brings me to another thing. He just, if you're obstructed, you're protected to the base the umpire thinks you could have made. So like in this case, if he rounds third and heads home and they tag him out, he's going to be out. So, but do the best you can on pickles and stuff. It's trying with two men and two runners. Okay, number 12. The offensive coach at third base requests and is granted time to discuss strategy with the batter. The defensive coach, seeing that the offensive coach has called timeout, runs to the mound to confer with the pitcher. So we only charge the offense with the conference, as long as the defensive coach doesn't take up more time than the offensive coach uses. So usually what happens is the batter goes down to third to talk to the coach, and the defensive coach runs out, and then the batter comes back, and I always say, "Coach, you ready?" And he goes, "No, I need a conference." So ask him, "Hey, do you need a conference, or are you ready to go? Because you got to be ready to go, or I got to charge you a conference." Just something we always seem to discuss that. So 13. Questions on that one? 13.
Yeah, I do have one. If the offensive conference has ended and the defensive coach is still on the field at that point, is he charged, or is he told to leave the field or take one?
Oh, you
his conference.
Remind him, "Sir, hey, time to go. Otherwise you want, or do you want a conference?"
Yeah. Okay.
So just give him the option. Most of the time, the times I've seen this, they've always taken the conference. Okay, 13. With a runner on first, left-handed, B6 attempts to drag bunt, but misses the ball. The catcher, who catches the ball cleanly, attempts to throw behind the runner at first. The throw hits B6, who has exited the box on the bunt attempt and has both feet clearly out of the batter's box. Okay, so here's another fun one. So the ball's dead immediately, and the batter is out because of the interference. So in this case, since the batter, he clearly interfered. The catcher was trying to make a play, and he couldn't get around. He couldn't figure out a way to get around him, and he ran into the ball. So it is what it is. Any questions on 13? It's a fun one.
So it calls out that both feet are clearly out of the batter's box. So what about if one foot is out of the batter's box or both are in the batter's box? Is there a ruling on that?
Okay, so if you think the catcher could have avoided the batter, then I wouldn't penalize the batter. But if the batter's, it's like a guy swinging on a steal. If he gets in the way of the catcher, you still have to make a call.
Okay.
So it's easier when both feet are out of the batter's box. That's why they put it there. If it's not, it's a judgment call. Yeah, he still interfered. So I'm sorry. I got to call him out.
Okay.
14. With R2 on second and 2 out, right-handed B3 takes ball 4. As B3 heads towards first, he tosses his bat toward the dugout, which is on the third base side. At the same time, the catcher throws towards third in an attempt to retire. R2 is attempting to steal. The catcher's throw hits the bat in midair, sending the thrown ball into the third base dugout. So more fun that's you just hope you don't ever see. But I swear this was on here last year too, but they repeated it for some reason. The batter would be declared out for interference, ending the inning. The penalty is a delayed dead ball when there is interference by a batter. Interference occurs when a batter interferes with the catcher's fielding or throwing with making any other movement which hinders the catcher's attempt to play on a runner. Okay, it's the same thing if the batter gets in the way. Oh, I just gave you the scenario. The batter gets in the way of the catcher trying to throw somebody out at second. It's not going to be a pleasant couple minutes, but it's one less out we have to deal with. So I don't know how else to put it. It's just sometimes you got to make a tough call. Okay. That's all I have for today. Has anybody had any games go that have any play situations? I got about 9 minutes till we get to 8:40. So
Hey, this is Herschel. How you doing, Paul?
good, Herschel. How are you?
I'm fine yourself. Hello, everyone. Hey, listen, I just wanted to remind the guys, I had a game last week, Utica Ford was playing Notre Dame Prep. And the kid was in a hybrid move, pitching
Oh
stance.
God.
And I reminded the coach and said, Coach, they did away with that a couple years ago. I mean, he played naive, so I just went to the rule book. I even took the liberty to copy the rule, emailed it to him. So, I don't want to be like I'm the only bad guy out here and, just trying to adhere to that and the jury piece. I'm tired of the jury piece. I'm gonna start ejecting some folks. So
Well,
I'm gonna be that guy. So
not
just letting y'all
ejecting.
know.
You're putting him in the dugout.
Yeah, put him in the dugout. Yeah.
Was it the Notre Dame Prep coach?
No, it was a Utica Ford coach. Actually, Utica Ford and Detroit Edison, now that I think about it. I had them back-to-back weeks.
Okay. So remember with the weather
back-to-back
the way it
days,
is.
back-to-back days. Utica Ford was playing Notre Dame Prep. Detroit Edison was playing Detroit Catholic Central. So it was back-to-back days, not back-to-back weeks. I'm sorry. There were consecutive days when each team, Utica Ford and Edison had pitchers that were in a hybrid stance. And the coaches were like, I'm like, no, that's not good enough. So just a reminder.
Try and when you're watching them warm up, fix it before the game starts, and you'll have a whole lot less troubles. You'll have a whole lot less people being unhappy about what you're doing, because we don't want to penalize if we don't have to, right? So we're just trying to get through the game, see how it goes. If you got to penalize, you have to penalize. It is what it is.
Sure.
So, okay, that brings me to another thing. Remember, the weather's terrible. So remember, make sure you communicate with the ADs. Send them an email before the game. Give everybody your cell phone number. So if the game cancels, they can at least get a hold. If they don't get a hold of Bob, they can at least get a hold of you. And you won't show up at a game and it's not there. So does anybody have any other things they do with the ADs or the coaches in order to prevent showing up and the games have been canceled and you're the only one there?
I always try to send an email to the school a couple days before, just confirming the crew. I do the same thing, and our football crew does it in football. I do it in basketball. I copy all the referees. I do it in baseball. I try to copy my partners in there and whichever is listed. But a couple of those schools, they don't have the emails listed. A contact listed. So unless there's a sub list on there, I've noticed that I've gone to a couple of those where there's no one listed at all. So.
Are you talking the MHSAA website?
No, I'm talking about when the game is listed and you have on the arbiter.
So
when you go click on the school.
I get the AD's email from the MHSAA website.
Okay. Didn't know it, but thank you.
Here, let me. So if you go to I hope you can see my screen. If you go to the schools tab and you put in, let's say Harper Woods.
I'm actually driving right now, so I'm listening, so I apologize.
So if you bring up.
Oh, we can't see your screen.
Rats. I don't know how to make. Shane, are
I
you
think,
there?
Paul, I think you
Yes.
have to stop sharing what you're looking at.
How about new share?
Yes.
How about now?
Yes.
Okay. So from the MHSA website, go to schools, schools and schedules. Type in, let's say Harper Woods. School search. And pick the right school. And swap down here. And you can see the athletic director is Mr. Gout. And here's his email address. So I was talking with Farmington Hills Mercy today. So let's see if we can get over here. And I would not send Vic Michaels an email. I would send Brandon and anybody that says assistant athletic director. So I was talking to him today and Kate answered. So just, that's what I do. I take the I take the arbiter reminder and I wipe out the subject line and I say umpire for Thursday's baseball game versus Harper Woods at 4 p.m. and I say, dear athletic director, or good morning. I'm just checking in. Game's still on a schedule. If the game canceled, here's my cell phone if you want to call me, and we go from there. When, what time will you make a decision? Usually they say 1 or 2 p.m. So. I wanted to show, what else did I want to show? So if you want to, there's a player DH thing on here that's kind of interesting. So if you go to baseball and here's your player DH case plays. And they have, I think they have I have 8 of them. So they're worth going over just for a refresher. It's no fun. I don't like it either, but we do have to know the rules. Anybody else with a question or comment or something to share? Okay. Shane, are you still with us?
Hey, Paul, can I ask you a question?
Certainly.
Hey, can you go over, there seems to be a little bit of confusion about this sliding rule. Can you, maybe I missed it. I just came on about half hour ago. Can you just do a quick wrap up of that? Was it no pop-up or, about that thing that came
Yes.
and
Yes.
with the sliding,
Yes. No. Yes. So no one ever has to slide.
period, right?
Period.
Wait, there is an exception to that though. So, because that was the other quirky play I had last week. So the thing says you do not have to slide. However, when you look on the rule book, when there's a forced situation, you must, in a forced slide situation, that's exactly what it's called, a forced slide situation. There is a little caveat in there on that one.
Okay.
I can relook the rule up, but
Okay. So let me get it. So if you do slide, the slide has to be legal. So you can't have your spike above the guy's knee. You can't do a pop-up slide, and you can't slide through the base. If you don't want to slide, you have to give yourself up and get out of the way. So again, that's a judgment call. Don't let anybody wave their hands in front of the shortstop as he's trying to cross the base. That's what, getting away, somebody's trying to get away with something. So don't allow it. So that's the plate umpire. The plate umpire has to help with some of that. When, if the runner is waving their arms, that's a good thing for the plate umpire to be involved with. So make sure you're paying attention.
Paul, if you slide into second aggressively, not to hurt anybody, just aggressively, and your slide takes you past the base are you automatically out or you gotta be tagged?
On a force out?
Even, not even a force out. But if you, I've seen guys where they slide into second, as a first guy's up, he goes for a double, nobody, he's the first batter. He overslides the base because he just
Yeah.
slided aggressively.
Yeah.
And the
He's
coach wanted me
okay.
to call him out, even though he wasn't tagged. I don't
He's
understand.
okay. That guy's going to be okay because that's the first play.
Okay, that's my question. Okay, good.
If it's a force out and he's out,
Yeah,
he can't do that.
okay, okay.
He can't slide past the base.
So
He
there's a
he can't-
difference.
Yeah, he can't slide. He can't do a pop-up slide. He can't.
Okay,
He can't spike the guy. He can't spike the guy above the knee. Stuff like that. So
okay.
don't let anybody try to hurt anybody at least.
And the only time we would call somebody out and or eject them if there's a slide that we construe to be malicious in nature. Is that correct?
I want to say yes to that, but when you say only,
Or that would be the key, malicious in nature.
yeah, just malicious in nature. You know, make sure the guy deserves it. So
Okay,
make sure
Okay.
everybody goes, yeah, he should be ejected for that.
okay.
And
All right, very good.
you'll hear the cat calls from one side or the other. They'll let you know.
Yeah,
And-
yeah.
Just do the best you can.
Okay,
It's
very
a-
good. Thank you.
Paul, it's
Yes.
Devin.
Yes.
Two things actually happened today at Bloomfield. It was against this Summit homeschool team. Jerseys, the exact same primary and secondary colors. Neither team had any extra sets of uniforms with them.
Just be thankful it's not basketball. I
I
don't know what,
Second, now I think most of us may know the answer to the first part A. Part B might be a good little fresher here. Lineup cards are exchanged. We go through. We have a team that comes out asking for clarification on numbers as they are appearing out of order in live play. Names are correct. Numbers are not. And then B, part B to this, maybe an inning later, a substitute comes onto the field that's not listed on the lineup card. Entire name. And we, obviously, there's no names on these jerseys, so you can't really rely on names on the back of the jersey to verify if they were on the card before the exchange.
okay, so baseball, the name has to be right. The number does not. So don't get it confused with football or basketball. So baseball,
Right, yep.
just the name has to be right. So fix the number.
Which we did.
Again, if the kid's not on the lineup card, add them to it.
Rydell died.
That's all I can say. We're trying to
Bobby
let everybody
Rydell.
play. We're trying to let everybody play, so.
Right,
Like you had
yeah,
the homeschool team, so, if Bloomfield isn't killing them, it's Bloomfield's fault.
Oh, die.
Oh, okay.
I'll clarify, it was a Bloomfield Hills
Also,
player,
bye-bye
in the
birdie.
sixth inning of a 9-0 game.
I would not make a big deal about it and just add them to the card. It's just,
Okay, that's what we ended up doing.
it's not as, if they come up and they go, this is for the championship of the league, are all your subs on the card, coach? You're not going to throw somebody out here on me, are you? Stuff like that. It's,
I will say that did happen 4 years ago, 4 or 5 years ago, first district tournament worked at White Lake, Lakeland. That did happen. I'm kid you not.
oh God. Well,
That's it for me though. Thank you.
oh, wow. That's God bless you, man. God bless you.
Paul, this is Doug. I was muted. I was trying to get in a question on the guidance on sliding. There was a note that was sent out about 2 weeks ago. And in the notation at the very end of it, it says a runner that chooses not to slide i.e. goes into a base standing up, is not out even if he makes contact with the fielder. And to me, that is in conflict with Rule 842F that says, as a runner or retired runner fails to execute a legal slide or does not attempt to avoid the fielder, he would be out. And I sent a question off to get clarification on that. So I'm really asking about, whether a player that chooses not to slide and makes contact with the fielder should be ruled out.
Okay, so here's the play scenario I got it. So grounder to second, the shortstop comes across, gets the throw, throws it to first, and then the runner bumps the shortstop. So I would so he's already out. The shortstop's got rid of the ball. I wouldn't worry too much about it. Depends on how hard he bumped him. You can start warning people, hey, hey, we can't have this. But I'm guessing the way Brent writes stuff, I think, is that, well, the shortstop threw the ball and the batter runner's out also. So do what you have to do. If you think, if someone's quoting rule and verse, do what you have to do. Get your 2 outs. If the guy at first isn't out, get your 2 outs. If they're chippy and they're talking back and forth, get your 2 outs. It might prevent that. If everybody's just playing the game the way they're supposed to, and okay, so it was a double play, jog up to the coach and go, hey, your runner bumped the shortstop. I know the runner at first was out, the runner at second's out, the runner at first is out, but he bumped it. He bumped the shortstop for no reason. So, the kids
before
don't
he
play
gave
the game the way we used to. So
before
Go ahead,
Before Brent issued this guidance, I thought it was pretty clear that a runner that chooses not to slide, either he has a choice. He can either slide or he can avoid contact. And if he doesn't slide and he initiates contact, then
I'm sorry, I missed that initiated contact thing. So yeah, get both outs. Restrict the kid to the dugout if you want. You have every right to restrict the kid. You have every right to restrict the kid to the dugout.
Yeah, that was pretty clear to me, but his guidance on it was totally confusing.
I think what he's aiming at is, well, the shortstop threw it and the batter runner's out too. Okay, he bumped the guy.
Yeah, well, his verbiage says he's not out unless the umpire believes his actions were intended to interfere with the play.
Yes. Yeah.
And to me, he doesn't have to intend to interfere with the play to actually interfere with the play and to result in essentially a double play.
So I'm trying to think of a scenario where, okay, so let's say the second baseman kicks it a little bit and the guy's running towards second and he slides in and and the shortstop's in the way and there's some contact. So if they're both doing what they're supposed to do, I can't penalize it. But if he's doing something, trying to get away with something, then you can penalize him. Did that make sense?
Well, the question that I issued had nothing to do with sliding. It had to do with not sliding.
Oh yeah, not sliding.
So, yeah. So he, as long as he executes a legal slide, doesn't slide through the base to make contact, I'm okay with it. But when he opts to just try and go in standing up and he makes contact with the fielder.
I hope I never see that. I don't think I've ever seen that.
Here's a good one for that, just not to get too far down the rabbit hole. If the runner is giving himself up to one side of the base as the fielder's coming across, and obviously he's not going to know which way he's coming across, where he go right down the middle and he gives himself up to one side. And he makes the throw, releases it cleanly, and then their forward momentum, they kind of bump into each other, regardless of what happens at first base as a result.
Well,
Yeah, if there's a good
gotta
faith
double
effort
check.
to avoid contact and to give himself up, then yeah, I agree with that. That's,
you just, sometimes bad things happen and sometimes I gotta call people out.
yeah,
It just,
okay.
you gotta do what you have to do. So I don't know how else to, you just do what you gotta do. So be as practical as you can. Be as, it is what it is. He made contact and I gotta call him out. Because then
Yeah.
the next guy that's gonna come in is gonna hit him a little bit harder. And then the other team's gonna do it. It's gonna be a little bit hard. And then I can't have that. I just can't. I just tell the coach, I can't have that. Sorry.
I have a comment on that, Paul. This is cool. A couple years ago, I had a play similar to that where a kid went into a base standing. This was after he was forced out. And on the throw from the shortstop to first, he caught it right in the center of the forehead and drew blood and everything. We had to call the ambulance and everything. And my partner on the bases also called the batter runner out for
Yes.
interference. So hopefully coaches are coaching and players instinctually get out of the way of what's possibly happening, because that's exactly what could happen. So
Yes.
I just think you have to exercise some judgment on that one, and just make your best call and live with it, because that player, that batter runner, or that runner should be getting out of the way.
That's definitely retired runner interference. So, yeah, you're gonna have the batter runner out also. So, if he's out and the shortstop throws it and it hits the guy, and the guy's not in, it's like standing next to you in the cutout. Yeah, you get to have a second out. That's an easy one. So, and the plate umpire did right. He helped you out. So, is what it is sometimes. Like I said, sometimes you just got to make a call.
At
Okay,
that
anybody
point,
else?
hopefully they're more concerned about the kid who's got a welt on his forehead than they are with the fact that you called the batter runner out too.
Yeah, that kid has got a lifetime lesson, unfortunately, and of course he's got the scar to prove it. And of course, I have the experience to tell it, because it's a terrible scene.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
right.
awful. That's awful. I don't know if you remember Reggie Jackson, I don't know, 30, 35 years ago, stuck his butt out. He got away with one. So,
I do
helped the
remember that.
Yankees.
Yeah.
I think he should have been out, but it's what it is. Sometimes you see it, sometimes you don't. There's only two of us. Anybody else? Okay, it's I got 8:54, so no one else has any questions. Have a great season. Don't forget to fill out your paperwork online, and don't forget to take your exam and your rules meeting. And have a great season. If you need something, send me an email, call me. If you call me, make sure you're either leave a message or text me, because I don't answer phone. My phone rings all day from people wanting to sell me stuff. So I don't answer phone numbers I don't recognize. Have a great season, everybody.
Thanks, Paul.
Thank you, Paul.
Thank you too. Bye.
Thanks, everyone. Take care.